If you think market farming in the winter means zero sales, you're leaving money on the table. By the end of this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how my tiny farm in Wyoming earns at least $1,000 a week through the winter and how you can do it too. I'm Zach Buckle, and I am a year-round veggie farmer in Cody, Wyoming, Zone 5, and this is our 5th season where we've been selling fresh produce every week all winter long. If making an income from your land is something you're into, you should totally subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I make a new video about making money from growing and selling veggies. So to be a successful winter farmer and still make money, you can't grow tomatoes in December. It just doesn't work. So you have to focus on growing crops that do really well in the cold, like these ones over here. And in order to succeed with these, you have to plant a lot bigger space than you would in the summertime because they're not gonna really be growing once you hit December. They're just gonna be sitting there like inventory. So you wanna plant a lot bigger space than you normally would in the summer, which is why you see 3 beds of spinach here, 8 beds of carrots here, 2 giant beds of kale here. And those are like inventory for us that we'll be selling every single week and harvesting little bits of a time all the way through February. So we have enough inventory here for our customers to last every week through the winter. The biggest learning curve with winter harvesting is getting the timing right. So you have to plant every single crop a certain amount of weeks before your average last 10-hour day. And if you miss that by a week or two, your crops might not mature by the time there is not enough daylight for them to keep growing. So for example, this arugula that we planted was a week or two early because it got too big and started rotting. We got this arugula that's about 8 inches tall off the ground, whereas the arugula in the other greenhouse was planted just 2 weeks later and it is only about 5 inches off the ground. So it makes that big of a difference when you get your planting dates right or wrong. And some of this just takes some practice and recording your dates over time to really get good at it. So that's why I'm really big on recording your planting and harvest dates, because you can use all sorts of free online resources and they will get you started, but the ultimate result is what actually happens for you in your backyard or your greenhouse. So to get started with this, there is a really great free resource at Johnny's Seeds that is a winter planting calendar that you could plug in your average last 10-hour day and figure out the ideal planting windows for winter in your climate. And most of this applies to greenhouses if you're growing in a zone 4 to 6. If you're growing lower than that, you probably don't need a greenhouse, but most of the results with this do have to do with lowering amounts of daylight, not necessarily frosts and cold at this point. And so you just need to master that and track your results over time every year. So for us here in Wyoming, most of the action happens for winter harvest in September. That is when we have to plant the bulk of our winter crops. So when most farms are slowing down, we're ramping up and it's almost like a second spring for us, which isn't that big of a deal when you spread the entire workload of a farm of this size over a period of 12 months. It's not as overwhelming as you might think because we don't bank all of our sales on a really short time window during the year. We sell 12 months a year. So the pressure isn't as high as you might think. And so we have to be really diligent and disciplined on flipping our beds in our greenhouse, which means tomatoes have to come out at a certain day in order to make everything you see behind me happen on time. So for us, we flip our tomatoes around the first week in October, and then we immediately replant to everything you see behind me. So it's a very well-conducted orchestra of timing. But once you get that rolling and down pat, it's really awesome, and it's my 5th year doing this, and I finally feel like I know what I'm doing, because really there's not a lot of great resources about this whole topic yet out there, and a lot of it just has to do with you have to figure out exactly what your microclimate will yield in terms of results. And so if you're interested in trying this, I'm gonna include the Johnny's winter planting calendar at the link in the description, so you can take that and try and adapt this whole planting schedule to your climate. And if any of you watching have ever tried winter harvesting before, comment below and share your experience, because there's not that many people talking about this yet, and I'd love to see what people are doing in other parts of the world. Now, some of you are probably wondering, how the heck does this guy keep all this food alive in -20 Fahrenheit? Well, the key is using this stuff called AG19 row cover. I'll put a link to a place you could buy this in the description. It's pretty readily available on Amazon and most farming stores online, but it's basically just this simple white fabric that you cover a whole bed with when it gets super cold, like a blanket, like you're tucking your kid in at night. And basically what we do is when it gets to about 15 degrees Fahrenheit at night, on average, we'll start to cover with 1 layer for most crops, and then 2 layers once it gets below 0. And then we're growing inside of a greenhouse. So that's how we do it here in Wyoming. Depending on your climate, you might not have to worry about any of that if you're living in a much warmer climate, but we have a pretty extreme cold climate, so that's what we have to do to keep things alive. So we don't use any fossil fuel heat in our greenhouses, except we have one that has a tiny bit of climate battery heat, which is just air pumped underground and releasing, but that doesn't work very well in December when their light levels are so low. So most of what we do is just simple low-tech protection like this, and these cost very little money. And I've had this exact row cover for 5 years now, and it's still working and getting the job done. For example, we've already had 3 nights of 5 degrees Fahrenheit in Wyoming, and everything you see behind me has not gotten damaged at all. And some of that has to do with acclimating the plants to the cold. So when it's down to 25 or 20 degrees Fahrenheit, we won't cover them, so they start to get acclimated to the cold. And the other secret is just picking the right crops and proportioning your planting to last the whole winter. So that's why you see mostly spinach and Tokyo Bacana salad greens in this greenhouse, because these are the coldest tolerant crops. So we want the most of them to last us deep into the winter. Stuff like lettuce and arugula is probably not going to last as deep into the winter as these ones. So we don't plant as much as that. So once it gets down to below 0, we'll try and harvest all of those kinds of crops and sell them quick, so we can just focus on keeping the really cold tolerant ones alive and thriving into January and February. So another question you might be asking is, how do you sell this stuff in the winter? Well, when's the last time you've seen anybody with fresh spinach, lettuce, green onions, carrots at a January farmer's market? Most of you probably said never, at least if you live in a northern climate. In the southern climates, maybe not. So the idea is, having this stuff in the wintertime, you are the only person at a market with this product in probably your whole town. So you have the advantage of scarcity. So it's a lot easier to sell to the same customers you were selling to all summer through the winter. And that goes not just for farmers markets, for restaurants, veggie box even if you have enough produce, or online farmers markets. If you have an online storefront, it's a lot easier to sell to those same customers you've been selling to all summer through the winter, because guaranteed your salad greens and carrots are going to be light years better than anything they're getting in the store. If you live in a place like Wyoming, the grocery store produce in January is garbage. So you stand out like a sore thumb. So on my farm, we continue to sell to farmers markets, restaurants, online farmers markets, and food hubs all winter long. And between all of those markets, we're easily able to clear an average of $1,000 a week in sales, sometimes closer to $2,000, like right now in December, every week through the winter, just on 1/3 of an acre of greenhouse space. And really, it's just the 3 high tunnels that I have on my farm. It's not even these Caterpillar tunnels right now. So this concept allows you to sell to the same customer 12 months a year and not have to stress so much about selling to a big market in 3 months during the summer. It allows you to spread your sales over a 12-month period, which makes life a lot more peaceful and allows you the flexibility to be able to travel or spend time with your family in the summer when it's really, really nice, because you're bringing in income to your business in the wintertime when most farms aren't doing anything. So it really spreads out the workload of the entire year and the sales pressure of the entire year into a nice, sustainable fashion. And it might sound weird to say that working 12 months a year is peaceful and calm, but it actually is, because the work that we do right now in the winter is so easy. All we're doing is harvesting and selling. It's basically harvesting salad greens, and that's the biggest labor that we have to do right now, because when we're doing 30, 40, 50, 100 pounds a week, that takes a little bit of time. Or 100 bunches of carrots or 150 bunches of carrots at a time. That takes a little bit of time. But we're talking 5 to 10 hours a week of paid labor that we're doing right now. So that strategy allows us to easily clear $1,000 a week in sales. And I really think it's a game changer for a farm in almost any climate, because most climates this will be easier than it is for me here in Wyoming. So if you're in the South and you're not doing this, you're just leaving money on the table. There is so much potential in this winter production idea that it's just a game changer. I don't know how else to put it in words, but I'm obsessed with this concept in the northern climates. But when you start to think about it in climates like Florida, Southern California, Northern California, the zone 9s and 10s, you have a huge opportunity to produce a lot more food than I ever possibly could in my short growing season, because you could continue doing the assembly line of food concept throughout your winter. Where I can't really plant more in the winter, but in the South you can. So this concept of having crops to harvest throughout the winter, it's just a game changer. So I promise you, if you try it, you are gonna put more money in your pocket. If you wanna start making an income from your land and you want my help, I've set up an action plan to help you streamline the process of turning your backyard into a profitable veggie farm that I'd love to share with you. If that sounds like something you're interested in, click the book a call link at the link in the description below and book a time for us to chat. If you found this video handy, can you do me a favor and like this video and share it with somebody who might find it interesting too? It really helps me reach more people who want to learn how to farm. And if you want to go deeper down the backyard farming rabbit hole and learn how to sell all this stuff, watch this video.